holidays, everybody. Happy Yule, happy Christmas, happy everything, because it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yay! You see, we have a little bit of a theme going today. So welcome. My name is Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. This is my particular Black Phillip. I'm going to let everybody, like we did last week, introduce themselves, starting with the beautiful and handsome and dapper Richard-Lael.
Hello, everybody. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard. Anyway, I am the gentleman psychic, and it is so lovely to see my Coven family and you. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. Jason.
Happy Yule. It's so great to be doing this special show where we get to talk about all of our favorite little extra special things.
Thank you so much. Heather.
Hi, I'm having internet problems tonight. I have all my children home, and I've already had to chase them off of all of their gaming and Wi-Fi. It's the holiday season, so it's a little crazy in the house right now. So I apologize if I freeze up a lot tonight. But here I am, and I'm happy to celebrate Yule and the holidays with everybody and our special guest as well tonight.
Yes, indeed. You may see that our beautiful Courtney Buckley is not here, but in her stead, we have the fabulous, always funny, always well-dressed Chad. Welcome, Chad. Introduce yourself.
Can you all see me? Can you all hear me? I'm also having internet issues, but...
we can see you. We can hear you.
Mother Nature suddenly remembered that LA exists, and so we're getting covered in a torrential downpour at the moment. But I am the internationally ignored costume designer, Chad Hatter, and I'm very, very happy to be here this evening.
Thank you. We are thrilled to have you. Now, this week is different. We'll see how it goes. Instead of doing A1 film or A1 television show, we were all bringing in our favorite or one of our favorite TV specials or holiday specials. That was not easy for this Libra to have to pick something on her own. So we're not going to start with me. But this is a time of year that I think that people really do have specials. We watch this every year. We do this every year. So I don't know. Does somebody want to jump right in?
I'll go first.
Please do.
I will definitely go first because...
So much fear.
Any fool to go about with Merry Christmas upon his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. Humbug, I say. Bah! Humbug. Humbug, uncle. What right have you to be miserable? You're rich enough. And what right have you to be merry? You're poor enough. Anyway, my start off is, of course, A Christmas Carol. And I'm going to not go into that right full on right now, but I'm going to tell you I have always been on the side of Scrooge. It says in the beginning that he took care of Bob Cratchit, and Bob Cratchit was a Nelly who very well could have spoken up when they came in to ask for charity. He could have said, "Sirs, if you would pardon my indiscretion, I have a child who is in need." But no, he just whined that it was cold. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo.
Oh, man.
I know. Humbug. And then not only that.
This hurts.
You are so fortunate to be, much like myself, dirt poor, because if you had anything to your name, you'd be in danger of being visited by spirits on Christmas Eve.
That's true. That is. But you know what? I will say that even though he was very wealthy, Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge did employ a lot of people. And in the town, he was a lender. And so he was very good with his money. And if anyone were lending money and they went crazy and started throwing it out the window, you would, like Bob Cratchit, think that they were insane. And he was actually Bob Cratchit in the end, when he's gotten the raise, he's afraid he might have to hold down Ebenezer Scrooge until the police come and carry him away, because there's something obviously not right with him. And mind you, he was doing all right alone. He was keeping the holiday in his own special way. And then he was forced, nay, he was indeed, he was possessed by these spirits. And just because he didn't want to have a Christmas tree or have a Christmas goose as big as the boy. He was seen as an old miser. And so what? Leave him alone. Let him celebrate in his own way.
I wish I had the foresight to make a large amount of popcorn so that while you were ranting, I could have just reached out of screen and brought up a bucket and just sat here watching you go off the rails.
On my second one, I will go ahead and tell you my second favorite one.
Can we rebut you first? Come on. Like, we have to, there has to be a rebuttal here.
Okay, rebut.
You're missing the entire
That's what he wants you to do.
story.
Don't feed him.
It's not about putting up a Christmas tree. It's not about a goose. It's about finding sympathy and empathy for your fellow human beings, for being able to be generous, for being able to give. Scrooge had plenty of money.
Are there no workhouses?
He was the subprime
Are there
lender,
no prisons?
subprime lender of his time. He was a terrible person, and the spirits needed to visit him because he was a terrible person. What did all that money give him? Nothing. He lived a terrible life, a miserable life with no joy or happiness.
He was Potter from the movie from last week.
Yes.
Yes.
And every time, no matter what version I see, you know, and I'm not going to tell you the versions I'm most familiar with because y'all will laugh, but Muppets and Mickey's Christmas Carol. Okay, let's just move on from that.
Point of order. The Muppet Christmas Carol is high art, and anyone who disagrees with that doesn't understand art at all.
There you go.
It is
the ending is bad though. I don't like the ending, but other than
at the
that,
ending, when baby Mickey Mouse, when baby little Mickey Mouse, or what, and little guy, he says, "And God bless us, everyone." I'm in tears.
And
every
I
time.
Say, God bless us, everyone.
Every time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter he's saying God. It doesn't matter, you know, whatever. I just, every time. Tears. A little Mickey Mouse, I tell you what.
Humanity,
Mr. Scrooge, can I please have a raise, Mr. Scrooge? I mean, like, how can your heart not melt when you hear that voice?
He could have gotten another job. He was paid well enough. Why do you think that Ebenezer kept him around? Anybody could have done his job. Ebenezer was employing that lazy fool.
Oh boy.
Bob Cratchit was clearly good at his job, and he became a partner at the end. You don't just give partnership to somebody who's bad at their job or easily replaceable.
He was good at his job, but if he was so good at his job, why didn't he? If he didn't like working with Ebenezer Scrooge, why didn't he find another job if he was so good at his job?
I don't think there were a whole lot of like opportunities in 1841 London. I mean, you're happy to work, right? You're happy to have a job, but you should be paid in a way that compensates you for your skills and your time and your expertise in lending money.
There's always the oldest profession in history, and I'm not going to tell you what that is. If you want to get paid more, I'm certain that there were some Londoners who would have paid top dollar for that.
Richard-Lael, we've suddenly entered Les Miserables, I think.
You know, Heather, what they say. You know what they say, Heather? Lame is as lame does.
Only on this show would we talk about paying Cratchit for his ratchet, right? I mean, this is it.
Before I'm taking over before we fall, because Black Phillip is getting so upset. Before we go further down this rabbit hole of Les Mis, my Black Phillip got so envious seeing Heather's Black Phillip, he had to go get a hat immediately. But before you do your second movie, Richard-Lael, before you do that, I want to do my favorite one because mine is a completely opposite version. I'm always been odd with television, and my favorite, it was really hard for me to choose, but my favorite show growing up was Bewitched. it was Bewitched. And they did have a few Christmas specials. They had like 4. And my favorite one is the No Bah Humbugs Here, their particular Scrooge story. It was 1967 or 1969. Tabitha was the little thing that all she did was repeat what her mommy said. And their Scrooge character was, an ad person who had soup company. And they wanted, of course, Darren to work on Christmas Eve, and Larry and the mom and everybody. And I think I actually saw that before I ever saw a real Christmas Carol, a real Scrooge, a real Night Before anything. And I got the message as a little kid just doing this. Oh, the evil corporate, salesman of whatever. And then, of course, Samantha took him off on her broom, most fabulous witch broom I have ever seen, with red and green. It looked like a Christmas tree. And she got to use her magic to create the Christmas tree. And they went to the real Santa Claus because she knows people. And the doll, they got top. This is what was the doll for Tabitha was the Bruisey Susie. I wanted a bruisey. You squeeze her too hard, she bruises. This is
genius.
Susie. She looked like a chatty Cathy, but she bruises if you are. So you are encouraging little children to bruise. This Bewitched. And again, my entire life, I have never seen a typical family sitcom. I had the perfect family. No divorces. My mom and dad were married forever. 2 big brothers. We were that cliche, classic. I never in my life watched one TV show, not Little House on the Prairie, not Happy Days. I couldn't do it. It was my life. This is the closest I ever had to it. It was Bewitched because she was a witch and she could do magic. It's probably why I am a witch. And even though I never got a Bruisey Susie, Scrooge, and he got to go to the North Pole and he got to ride in a broom and he kept saying, "Put me down." And he ended up happy, Richard-Lael. So whether you have money or you give money or you have a Christmas tree or you wiggle your nose, he ended up happier because he was with people, like Jason said. So you guys, you can watch it on YouTube. Bewitched has its own channel, and this one called The Bah Humbug of 1967 or 1969. This is my foray into witchcraft.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
All right. So now
So
you can
nice
see
to have something.
Unless anybody else has a Scrooge story, we can move on.
Well, it's so nice to have something so heartwarming and genteel and so part of the season. Now, Richard-Lael, if you'd like to do the exact opposite again.
Well, I will tell you my second favorite one, actually. Now that we're on the topic of second favorites, I will tell you my second favorite. My second favorite is Tales from the Crypt, All Through the House. And in this delightful story, it's a lovely story. It starts off on Christmas, and it's a lovely family. And of course, it's this beautiful woman, and then she's married to this man that she hates, and he's the stepfather to her daughter, and he gets to be a little grinchy, and he says to her, "Hey, it's cold in here. Do you have the fire poker?" And she says, "I have it right here." And he says, "Well, what are you waiting for? Give it to me." And she does. She gives it to him right into his head. And then she's panicking. Her little girl comes downstairs. "Why is he not talking to me and telling me good night?" "Well, he's sleeping." "Well, maybe Santa can wake him." "No, not even Santa can wake him." So she tries to figure out what she's going to do, how she's going to call the cops and tell them that this guy is dead. And she hears on the radio that there is an escaped mental patient dressed as Santa. And he's on this homicidal rampage, killing innocent people throughout the county.
Like you do.
I mean, I do it every year. And she...
Confessions.
But only in red states.
And then she ends up, the man comes in and she goes, "Okay, I'm going to call, I see this Santa out here. I'm actually going to call the cops and say that he murdered my husband." And then she realizes that he's he's out there, but then her car keys are out there and she has to go out, and the Santa killer tries to kill her, but then she gets into the house, and then the little girl, she's calling the cops. There's a man dressed as Santa, and he's killed my husband, and he's in the house, and I'm afraid he's gonna kill me. And then the little girl sees that the Santa is outside and calls him in and opens the window so that he can come in. And she says, Mommy, look, it's Santa. And he didn't even have to come down the chimney. And then the woman screams, no! And then, of course, we have old Crypty in his most delightful holiday spirit. And he talks about, what was his joke? I think he said something along the lines of, he says, all through the house. I don't remember his joke. I'll let the crypt keeper do his own thing. But that's my second favorite. Full of holiday cheer, death and murder, and it's red. It's the color of poinsettias. It's red.
I'm reminded of a line from Roald Dahl where he talks about how there's a fine line between tragedy and comedy, and that the line is just it's like the width of a hair, because he says, if a woman murders her husband by hitting him over the head, that's tragedy. If she hit him over the head with a frozen leg of mutton, now it's starting to get a little funny. But if she then cooks and serves that leg of mutton to the two police officers who show up wondering where her husband has gone, now it's comedy. And
in the words of, I believe it was Woody Allen, is comedy is tragedy plus time. But that has nothing to do with our Christmas cheer that we're talking tonight about. And so I am going to deflect.
Christmas.
I mean, Richard-Lael has been so cheerful, and so I'm gonna deflect. So I've got a couple of things to share, but first, I guess I'm going to share my most favorite Christmas show growing up, and that is Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, hands down.
Oh, so good.
Bravo.
I can sing every song
Heather.
there. Every song.
What is it
I have
called?
watched it. What was that?
What is it called?
Emmett Otter's. There they are.
Yeah.
Look at those birdies up in the tree. Wait, I got a quote. I'm channeling Courtney. Hang on for a second.
I've never seen this.
Do you have mashed potatoes?
Up in the tree. We're not birdies. We're a jug band. That is them. This is the best Christmas show ever.
Richard-Lael, if you ever get the chance to watch it, you should, because, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but there is a frog that is a character in this, or is he a toad? I think he's a frog. I think he's a bullfrog.
The one in the band, or
the one with the top hat.
The mayor.
Yeah, so there's a frog who dresses like you would like to see the world dress.
That's Doc Bullfrog. He owns
See what I did there?
inn and restaurant.
And he's the mayor, isn't he? Also
no, he's
the mayor?
not the mayor, though.
Oh, I
Fox
thought he was
is the
the
mayor. I just watched it the other day because it is one of the best holiday specials of all time.
It has a Wind in the Willows feel to it, with Jim Henson's creativity, and the songs are beautiful, and I can sing every single one of them, which I will not do tonight, but I can sing. But they were part of my repertoire every single holiday. So I'm going to lay that right there, laying that out one. And let me just tell you, one time they decided several years back that they were going to air this across the country on the big screen. And during the holiday season, it was sometime like early December. They said, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas anniversary special, come to the theaters. We went to the theater, and the theaters, we went to see it. Family, 6 of us, sitting there waiting. And then the camera, whatever, the new construction broke, and we never got to see it, which was still a scar in our life. But
if you ever get the chance to see the stage show, because they have made it into a Broadway musical, it is very charming, and they've filled it out with more music, and they've rounded out the script a little bit more, and it's very charming.
It is so good. And it's so good on so many levels. So I'm going to just list, watching Christmas specials growing up was a huge deal for our family. Like Christmas time, I grew up, my family is Jewish. My family also is split because I had family that I have Christian family as well, or something. I don't know what they are. Family, Christian origin family. So we had a Christmas tree and we celebrated mostly with Jewish people, and there was Yule and there was I mean, it was all kinds of stuff. So watching Christmas carols and being with family was a huge deal for us. So we watched them when they came on, because back in the 70s and 80s, you couldn't download them and stream them whenever you want. You had to watch them when they came on, and that was a huge deal. When I remember when John Denver and the Muppets special came on, and yes, I'm dating myself big time here because I love John Denver and I love the Muppets. So that, and I had that record, we had that record and played it. When that came on, you watched it. When Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer came on, you watched it. And that was it. And that was part of our lineup going all the way through the season. So these shows were a massive part of and then when I had kids, we could DVR them, and we would DVR them, and then we would watch them. And my daughter just recently said to me, when are we watching the Christmas shows? When are we going to watch Emmett Otters? I think she's probably the only 16-year-old that knows what Emmett Otters is. So this is my favorite. Rudolph and the Rankin Bass, and those are definitely going to be my second, I don't know, Year Without a Santa Claus. Santa Claus is coming to town, Rudolph. And then, of course, Charlie Brown. I mean, I'll watch any of them. I'll even watch the newer ones. I have the Prep and Landings we watch. I mean, whatever. But I love the old ones that I grew up with. Those are special. So,
I have to say, just like Lisa just said, John Denver was my number 2 choice. I couldn't decide between the
I can sing
ones.
all of the
John
songs
Denver,
from that album, too. Oh, my goodness. You bring it. Bring it.
To piggyback off of Heather for a second, though, and we are of a like age, and we grew up in that era where you had one chance to see your show, and that was it. And it would start with like this little like twirling thing that said special, and it was exciting that there was a cartoon in prime time, which never ever happened. And then you would get to see this thing that looked like nothing else. My choice tonight, of course, is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which I still watch as an adult. And I remember as a kid being excited about it, but then the next day you would go and wait for the bus, and all the other kids would be like, did you watch Rudolph last night? And of course you were like, of course I watched Rudolph. It was great. Is his name Herbie or Hermie? All I know is that elf wants to be a dentist. Right?
I love that gay little elf.
Yes,
I wanted to be him. I wanted to be that gay little elf. But
and
also
the Island of Misfit Toys, like a cowboy who rides an ostrich, a squirt gun that shoots jelly. The sadness of those toys not being able to go to children, and then Rudolph keeping his promise and Santa swooping in at the last minute and taking them out on Christmas Eve. Which, by the way, as a scholar on the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special, was not in the original airing, and there was a crying out of the public, what about the Misfit Toys? And they made a special scene the next year showing the toys getting picked up.
That is fabulous.
It is, isn't it? And it's so great, and the songs are so good.
Did you hear that, Richard-Lael? People were
and
unhappy.
I can sing all of those too, Jason.
Yeah.
They were very unhappy.
Every song is so good in Rudolph. Every song. All the Rankin Bass stuff, with the exception of The Night Before Christmas with the creepy mice making clocks. They're all so good.
Oh, yeah. The Heat Miser and the Coal Miser.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the first shared universe, forget the Avengers. What about Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, where you got the original voice of Rudolph and the original voice of Frosty, boom, together like a team up. That was amazing when I was a child. Nobody watches that one, but I still do because I'm a broken person, and I totally will admit it. Also, Rudolph's Shiny New Year. There's a whole Rudolph universe out there.
I love
a whole Rudolph universe for everyone to explore.
And that gay elf.
The elf is awesome.
The elf is awesome. Yeah, a couple of misfits.
I love it. Holidays are varied. Okay, Chad, Mr. Chad Hatter. I don't think you've given us any of your wisdom.
I haven't. I don't have a rant or a bunch of unhappy people like Richard-Lael has. But I do have some things to contribute that are kind of a little more. One is a bit more on the obscure side of things. in the 1980s, my favorite author illustrator, Maurice Sendak, was asked to design a production of The Nutcracker by Kent Stowell, who at the time was the art director for the Pacific Northwest Ballet. And he turned it down. He said, it's too saccharine. It doesn't make any sense. It's irritating. I'm not going to do it. Well, then it sort of stuck in the back of his head like a little walnut kernel. And he went off and found the original fairy tale and read it and saw the potentiality that existed within it. And so he went back to Kent and said, okay, I'll do it, but I'm only going to do it if we rewrite it and do a plot that's closer to the original story, that's a little bit darker, that has a bit of an edge to it. And Kent Stowell loved that idea because he wanted the Pacific Northwest Ballet to have their own Nutcracker, because up until then, everyone mostly, and it still happens, just was sort of copying the George Balanchine version. And literally every version you see has something tethering it to the George Balanchine version, which I am fatigued from the George Balanchine version. So tonight I am dressed as Maurice Sendak's version of Godfather Drosselmeyer. And this particular version of the Nutcracker is dark and beautiful and lovely. And it's got elements of brightness to it, and it's, instead of going to the land of the sweets, she goes to the land of the toys, because that's what happens in the book. And there's this beautiful moment where the young Clara is traveling through this ice cave, and as she's walking through it and she's being reflected in channels of ice, she ages up and becomes a grown woman, because it is her fantasy. And she grows up and she sees herself as an adult, and then she has this beautiful dance with the Nutcracker Prince, and it's very lovely and beautiful. And I don't have a Black Peter with me this evening, but what I do have is this.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
There's only 2 of these in existence. The one that was built for the production in the 80s, which is currently in a Maurice Sendak museum, I believe in, I want to say Oregon, but I don't know if that's correct. But this was made for me by a very dear friend. I have to take the eye patch off for a moment. But this was made for me by a very dear friend of mine. And it is entirely resin. It weighs a metric ton. He's horrifying because he's supposed to be. That's one part of the fairy tale that people often forget, is that he was cursed with ugliness, which is why he's got bug eyes in the head that's way too big for his body and stuff like that. But he's so charming and so cute and so lovely. And my favorite thing about this particular production is that upon its completion, Maurice took all of his designs for the sets and the costumes and bound them together with a translation of the original text. And you can still buy this version of the Nutcracker, and all of the illustrations are his designs. Like this snowy scene here is one of the backdrops. And as you flip through it, there are that's one of the curtains from the show with Godfather Drosselmeyer and all of his toys. And it's just, it's so lovely and it's so fabulous, and it's available to watch on YouTube. So if you get a chance, do watch it. It's absolutely fabulous. It's so beautiful and lovely. And it's definitely got lots of surprises. And then the second thing that I wanted to talk about was the Rankin Bass 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Now, Jason.
Oh, that's at the bottom of the Rankin Bass catalog for me.
But Courtney also loves that one. Courtney, not this one. That was my third. Not this one. 'Twas the night before Christmas. So Courtney also loves this one. I don't remember it because Christmas.
Jason, how dare you? When you said there was this moment where this light went off in Richard-Lael's eyes, and this little twinkle that said, "Oh, they're going to fight, and I get to watch."
I will. You know what I'll also throw out about that one? One of the things about Rankin Bass ones, which was so much fun, was the stop motion animation, right?
Correct,
and so this one does not have stop motion animation, which really kind of, I think, lessens it, because that's kind of what you expect at Christmas, because it's different, and that's what all the other ones were. Also, isn't it like the son who breaks the clock? He's a grade A jerk, right? It's hard to watch.
are
think he
elements
froze.
of it that
there he
are
is.
kind of, oh, okay. There are elements of it that are kind of depressing because you're right. The youngest son of the mouse family. Oh, the movie follows this one family, Jonathan Trundle and his kids and his wife, and they're very poor, and he's a clockmaker in this, this everywhere where they live. And one year at Christmas, all of the kids' Christmas letters get returned. And no one knows why. Santa, for whatever reason, just wrote return to sender on all of them. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. Well, Jonathan Trundle, there's a mouse family that lives in the walls of his house there that are also quite poor. And so they do what all mice would do in this situation, which is they call the North Pole to find out what's going on. And a mouse operator answers at the North Pole and is like, your letters were sent back to you because of the letter that you wrote saying that Santa is a fraudulent myth. And they say, what are you talking about? And he reads this letter and it's full of big words. And the mouse father realizes that it was written by his youngest son, who is an academic and who is a sociopath. And so his name is Richard-Lael. And so what then follows, what transpires is the whole thing is just about this one town trying to figure out how to undo this mess, because the mouse father teaches this lesson to his son, which is, yeah, you may not believe in Santa, it may not be your thing, but that's not a reason for you to ruin it for everyone who does. Like, if it's not your thing, but there's this beautiful musical number where he sings about, there's more to the world than meets the eye. If doubt's in your mind, give your heart a try. Let up a little on the wonder why and give your heart a try. And it's a beautifully animated sequence. For a lot of the animated features that came out at the time, this one's particularly good because the animation, they really took their time with it. And it's not jittery and janky like older animated specials tend to be, because you watch The Grinch and you can see the pencil strokes in it, but this one doesn't have all of that. And this was before computerized animation was a thing. And I always weep openly at the finale of it, because the big solution that they devise is they build a clock in the middle of town square, this big clock tower that at midnight on Christmas Eve will chime this song welcoming Santa and apologizing and, opening their hearts back to him. And it ends up working through a series of events. It ends up working. And so the reason why it's called 'Twas the Night Before Christmas is because it eventually merges with the classic poem, and the poem plays out as the finale of the film. And it's very lovely, and the animation is adorable, and particularly the way that the reindeer are presented, because
Santa looks terrible. Santa looks terrible.
He looks like a woodcut. He's fabulous.
He's awful. He looks creepy and weird. And it's
What's
not
wrong
the cool
with
Santa
creepy and
of
weird?
Rudolph or A Year Without a Santa Claus. Like, it's just disappointing. It's a disappointing Santa.
I wish there were a year without Santa Claus. Goodness, we can't even go 6 months without a year without Santa Claus.
I don't.
Go ahead, Heather.
No, I was gonna say it, and I saw the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I remember it. It didn't stick the way Rudolph and A Year Without a Santa Claus and Santa Claus Comes to Town. It didn't stick for me. I don't remember.
Well, this has been fun.
Now wait a second.
Have a good
Hold
night.
on a second.
Have a good
Come
night,
back.
everybody. Goodbye.
Come back, Valentine Nutcracker. Okay. I am so fascinated with your talk about the Sendak ballet. So I am definitely going to, and I wrote it down in that book. So I wrote all of that down because I grew up as a dancer and always saw the same Nutcracker, and most likely the Balanchine versions, as you were pointing out. So I am very eager to go see what you said. So thank you for sharing that tidbit.
You are very welcome. And the dancing in it is absolutely incredible. The choreography is incredible. The changes they made to the script are fabulous as we change the subject completely. And the other thing about it is, if you've read the story and you know the story, you're going to get so much more out of it. So if you ever get the chance to read the original text by E.T. Hoffman, I highly recommend it. It's fabulous. Mm-hmm. But there was something else I was going to add about the Maurice Sendak Nutcracker. And I was just going to add that in 2014, the Pacific Northwest Ballet retired the Sendak production, and now they do the George Balanchine version with diminished sets, diminished costumes. It's heartbreaking because when you watch the Battle of the Toy Soldiers and the Mice, George Balanchine makes it goofy. You know, you've got the toy soldiers are launching cheese at them out of a single cannon, and there's no stakes. It's just a lot of goofing off. And then the Mouse King comes out with 7 heads, and it's very hokey and unpleasant. But then you watch this version, and every single mouse is an original design. It's not one cookie cutter mouse design. Each one of them, and I sent Richard-Lael some screenshots of what the mice look like, and they are fabulous. They are creepy. They are incredibly limber. And the editor of Star Wars was the director.
Neat.
So for those of you that like Star Wars, there's that little connection to it. And Henry Selick, who directed The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline and James and the Giant Peach, he was the story editor on it. So there's a lot of little pieces all over the place that all kind of, you know, go back to this one production, but it's so gorgeous. So I'm going to watch it when we're done with this. Like, I'm going to throw it on in the background because it's just so good. So good.
You have made me want to rewatch The Night Before Christmas. Maybe I'm too hard on it. Maybe I don't remember it as well as I should, Chad. So I'm going to give it another watch.
And you have inspired me. And you've inspired me to be unnecessarily critical of it. So we've both grown tonight.
How lovely.
I mean, does it creep me out that the mother and father look more like brother and sister? Yes, it does. But I will give it another go just for you.
Okay, so real quick, Patricia Barksley says that George Balanchine choreography has always bored me. Yes, watch this other version. The choreography is so good.
Why would they retire something? Would that be like a legal thing of some sort? Why, or like a rock star retires and comes?
They retired it because they went under new management, and the new management didn't want the dusty, tired old production, and they scrapped it. And the one they do now, it looks exactly like the version that's in New York. It looks exactly like the version that LA does. They all look the same because they're all George Balanchine's version of it. And like, the artistry is what baffles me, because there's a moment where Clara shrinks, right? She becomes the size of a toy. The battle between the toy soldiers and the mice happens. And the way that typically this shrinking is done on stage is the Christmas tree gets bigger. But in the version that everyone does, all of the ornaments remain the same size. The tree just gets bigger. But Maurice Sendak said, well, that's stupid. The ornaments need to get bigger. So they designed it so that the entire set was like a giant Chinese puzzle box. So you've got pieces of scenery that disappear behind walls, and giant versions of the scenery come out. So when she shrinks, and it's the entire set that changes. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And they made Drosselmeyer, depending on how you look at it, you're either going to find him incredibly creepy. You guys could do an entire episode just about this production of The Nutcracker. I shit you not, because the amount of sorcery in it is absurd. But, I'm not supposed to curse. I'm so sorry. Sorry. I'm very impassioned.
Family show.
Christmas show.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But like the artistry of it is just absolutely phenomenal. And it's weird and otherworldly and beautiful. And Drosselmeyer, you're either going to find him very creepy or very sympathetic. And they were leaning towards sympathetic. And it's just, it's, you have to watch it. You have to. Absolutely. I want a 1-page typed double-spaced report from each of you due by Wednesday of next week about your thoughts and feelings after watching this, because it's, oh my God, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I have one more thing to say, which is the Pacific Northwest Ballet's Instagram account every December gets inundated with comments of people talking about how dare you get rid of this legit version and go to the one that everyone else does. And so their social media person is always having to be like, that version is available on YouTube. The version is available on YouTube. Like over and over and over, because now my passion is incredible. Thank you, Lisa. It's just, it's Oh, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I want desperately to keep rambling about it, but I can't because I'm just going to be going in circles. So now you speak.
And Patty only gave us one. Patty, did you have another one?
No, I would have gone to, I didn't know we were doing two, but it was a toss between John Denver, because just John Denver, anything would be it. And this music and the songs. And I saw there was a couple comments and how Heather always says she'll sing, but that she won't sing. Maybe we need to do a sing along one of these days. Pick a movie.
We could.
And do a
Don't we have to worry about copyright and stuff if we sing a song? Like we have to pay royalties?
Not if you say
like
it's
that?
parody.
Do we? John Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You think Willie?
Can I share another tradition that's a holiday tradition, and also maybe may have interest to our witchy friends that are parents? Would that be okay? Not
please.
TV shows. So another tradition that my family has is that every night on Christmas Eve, we read the night before Christmas. And so I have a pile of books here. So we read, this is the one I pull out, and I still make them do it to this day. And even though they're older, we read this every night before they go to sleep. I've been doing it since the first one was born. The oldest one is 22 now. But the other tradition we have is that every year I take out, because I love children's literature, I take out a series of books in the beginning of December, right after Thanksgiving, that have to do with the holiday season. And so I love to read children's literature. It's one of my passions, and I've written several articles on children's literature. And so, but some of the literature that I kept, some of these books they're mixed religion as well as pagan, and they have a lot of these have pagans, and I'm just going to share a few of them. This one is called Winter Solstice. There was one, they're done for each of the various seasons. It's very nice for parents that are witchy and pagan to read. Another one that I love to read to them was Robert Frost's Stopping by Woods on Snowy Evening. It's the poem, but it's beautifully done. The artwork is gorgeous in this book. So I have Magic Dreidels and Madeline's Christmas. I would take them out. Of course, the Polar Express always came out. They loved the Polar Express. Herschel and the Hobgoblins of Hanukkah. This was one of my most favorites. If you have a little child who's precocious, this is one of our most favorite Christmas books. Olivia Helps with Christmas. Olivia is done. This artist is brilliant. Right. The books are great. And then, of course,
Olivia looks like Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
Do not dare you. She will. She is. Her books are amazing in general. This one is so much fun. She's so precocious. I love Olivia books.
Carving his way through everybody tonight, isn't he?
She is so bacon.
Right here.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Another brilliant children's writer and artist is Eric Carle, who died in the last few years. Brilliant books, great for pagans. Lots of nature books, lots of animals, lots of stuff. Dream Snow. This is a beautiful book. And then, so we would take these out, and I, as a parent and also the daughter of an elementary school teacher, save these books, keep them away, and right when the seasons change, take your season books out. It's another way of really reflecting the seasons. And I would do that with them all year long. I take the spring books out, the summer books out to teach them about the seasonals. But this was a particularly special thing. So along with this and the shows, that's one of the ways we celebrate until still to this day. Then these books, I have them, so that's another thing that we did that was really special and just made the coming together of family. And that's what I try to do.
That is beautiful. And that is a helpful hint for our beautiful audience. Not having children, I do that with the animal plush toys for Willow. She has 6 old. Yes, that is my movie or TV. There's Tabitha getting herself a Bruisey Susie. That's a Bruisey Susie. Yep. Yes. So I have seasonal plush toys that Willow gets. We take away the Santa Clauses and we bring them back. So it's like a new toy every. Yeah. So anyway, we have Courtney's favorite movies. Who knows more about them than I do? The Grinch.
Yeah, she has The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and A Year Without Santa Claus. I only know about The Grinch. I don't know about The Year Without Santa Claus because I am a Grinch.
I can cover The Year Without a Santa Claus if need be. I think Jason and I could probably tag team it very easily.
Yes.
No.
The Grinch. I actually have the book The Grinch too. That's a classic. I mean, we all know The Grinch clearly.
Yeah, everyone knows The Grinch.
Yeah, what a great book.
So when people ask me about like you're a witch and you celebrate Christmas, Jason, that just seems so wrong. Like that's only a Christian holiday. And then I come back to things like A Year Without a Santa Claus and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and how tenuous Christmas always is and how close Santa is every year to canceling the holiday. It just makes me think that obviously the holiday then is only really about Santa and presents, and those are for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And everything we celebrate about Christmas is really not very much of it the Christian stuff. I mean, it's really the more pagan stuff. The trees, the Santa Claus, I mean, that's way more pagan than Jesus in the desert, right?
And growing up with a mixture of different religious experiences and not having, any specific. I mean, every Christmas Eve was with the family. Christmas Day, we had a bunch of people that were Jewish over, and we had the Christmas tree and stuff like that. And it's because I started calling it Peacemas when I was older, but I never saw it as particularly Christian because that's not who we were. My family was never that. So I don't have a problem with that crossover with the pagan. I'm like, it feels the same. It feels right. So
it's a big gooey mess of holiday stuff, right? And you can love it or not love it if you're Richard-Lael, and that's fine.
I don't love it. I call it Xmas because it makes me laugh. I only call it Xmas.
What about Festivus? What about Festivus, Richard-Lael?
You know what? I didn't like Seinfeld.
Okay. Well,
you're a mean one, Richard-Lael.
I didn't like
You're a mean one. All right, back to a tag team Courtney's movies.
So The Year Without Santa Claus is fabulous for a myriad of reasons, if for no other reason other than how absurdly campy it is. Because it is very campy, particularly the Miser brothers who are in charge of
they're the best.
They are the best.
They have a musical number that has just wormed its way into pop culture. It was referenced in Batman and Robin with Mr. Freeze. The Year Without a Santa Claus also had a ghastly remake that was live action starring John Goodman as Santa. The budget was like $10 on it. If you ever want to be mortified, it's also on YouTube. I recommend, if you really want something to hate, go watch that. The only redeeming thing about it is that Harvey Fierstein is Heat Miser, and he's doing his absolute best with what they've given him, which is not much.
And also, like, there's Mother Nature has a big role in The Year Without a Santa Claus, which is really cool. And Mickey Rooney is the voice of Santa Claus. And he kind of then takes that over in all of the subsequent specials. Like he shows up a lot after that and all the Rankin Bass stuff.
Well, and you mentioned the Rankin Bass, and there really was one. It started off with Rudolph, and then they began to tweak it because eventually even the designs of like their court, like the design of Santa changed, and then they stuck with that design, and the design of the environments changed, and they stuck with that. And I mean, Rudolph's Shiny New Year is a really good example of sort of them having all these different, because like even though there's some contradictory ones, because their origin story for Santa is nothing like the L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz. His origin story for Santa, they also made into a movie. And
which is so pagan and weird. It's amazing. That one is just so cool. Like,
and I have to
council of pagan elders, like, are we going to make Santa Claus immortal? And I'm like, yes, make Santa Claus immortal. It's so good. So
I have to say, L. Frank Baum's names for the reindeer are, in my opinion, superior to the ones from 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which they do predate by about 40 years. But L. Frank Baum's reindeer names are way better, like so better. Now you're going to ask me what they are, and I don't know. So give me 2 seconds.
We are going to ask you what they are.
Give me 2 seconds to Google so I get them right, because there's 3 or 4 that I always get wrong.
While you're Googling it, while you're looking up that, why don't we, Jason has a movie minute. Why don't we let Jason do your movie minute?
I do. Do you have the names, Chad?
I will in a moment.
All right, I'll stall. I'll do the movie minute. So this one's a little different than it usually is because I'm gonna tackle a couple of different things, and it just really plays into my nostalgia. Ah, yes, the holiday specials of my youth. How broken they all are. As much as I love Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all of those songs are boss, the North Pole is a completely messed up place. Even Santa belittles Rudolph for his red nose, back when Rudolph was a freaking baby deer, no less. And judging how the other elves treat Hermie the elf, it's clear that every elf at the North Pole has both gingivitis and wears dentures. Seriously, no dentists for hundreds of years. Think of the bad breath. And then there's the misogyny. When Rudolph's mom, who was only referred to as Mrs. Donner, wants to go looking for her lost son with Clarice, Rudolph's bae, Donner forbids it and says, "No, this is man's work." Seriously? And then there's my favorite line. They were all very sad at the loss of their friend, but they realized that the best thing to do was to get the women back to Christmas Town, which is said right after Yukon Cornelius and the Bumble fall over a cliff. That's nuts, right? Do the men want to live out in the wilderness while only the women seek a warm mug of hot chocolate? At least the other reindeer are eventually nice to Rudolph. So, yay for learning, I guess? And in nature, by the way, only female reindeer have antlers on December 25th. But the does at the North Pole are forbidden from joining in any reindeer games. Speaking of games, cowboys who ride ostriches are the coolest cowboys, and squirt guns that squirt jelly are far superior to ones that only shoot water. Misfit toys? I think not. How about the coolest toys? Of course, Rudolph's problems pale in comparison to what's going on in A Charlie Brown Christmas. Are the adults in Charlie Brown Town unaware of the separation of church and state? Why does Pigpen never bathe? What do all the Jewish, Muslim, pagan, and atheist kids do during the school play? Where the heck is Santa Claus? At least the jazzy score is pretty cool and is perhaps the only redeeming feature of the entire special. Which brings me to a personal favorite, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Are Heather and I the only people who have ever seen this special? Why is the rest of the world not equally enchanted by destitute otters who wander around without any pants on? Oh, the world does not make sense to me. But how I love the terrible Christmas specials because you remind me of my childhood oh so much. And is there any better time of year for acting like a child than Yuletide?
Yay! Beautiful minute. A beautiful minute. Thank you. All right, Chad.
Okay, so in L. Frank Baum's text, there are not 8 reindeer, there are 10. So that's the first major change. Their names are Glossy, Flossy, Racer, Pacer, Reckless, Speckless, Fearless, Peerless, Ready, and Steady.
I think I danced with those when I was in Vegas. I was a dancer too, but I took my clothes off.
Those are beautiful.
Not 45 minutes ago, you chastised me about how this was a family show, and then you pull that out of your tuchus?
I was dancing. We can talk about dancing. I was a dancer.
With your clothes
Anyway, what's really great about, speaking of universes and cinematic universes and stuff like that, L. Frank Baum had one as well, because in Ozma of Oz, Santa is, well, his version of Santa is one of the guests at Ozma's birthday party, which is really great. And then when he shows up, he ends up having no way to get home, and so the wizard builds this contraption that blows giant bubbles, and that's how he gets back to the North Pole, him and all of his fairies and brownies and elves that go with him. And then that's where, in the original MGM film, that's where Glinda traveling by bubble comes from. It is within the text.
Oh, that makes me happy. Thank
You're welcome.
you.
It also means that anyone can have anyone travel by bubble, and MGM can't go after them for it because it's in the text. So That's how Wicked got away with it. Fun fact was that MGM went after them and sued them. And so the reason why the Wicked stage show, this is way off topic, but the reason why the Wicked stage show looks the way it does is because they had to resemble but be legally distinct from the MGM film. And the one thing that connects them is that there's a certain pair of shoes that turn red-ish, but Glinda traveling by Bubble is within the original canon of the books. And so they were able to get away with it. But if you watch carefully, there's lots of verbiage in Wicked that is close to MGM, but is not, because MGM owns Follow the Yellow Brick Road, cannot be uttered on stage without paying them a royalty. Fun fact. Yeah, isn't that horrendous? But anyway.
Wow, thank you. All right, now we're getting to the point where we're usually wands up and wands down, but
how about we wands up or wands down on Xmas?
You're just looking for an excuse to ramble on about how much you go ahead and put your wand down, get it out of the way. Yeah, there. Yeah.
All right, we're going to wands up or wands down on Christmas.
Yuletide.
3 wands up. Wands
Yule is
down.
the best season of the year. It's lovely. It's delightful. It's a time to spend with family and friends, to be thankful for what you have and to share what you have with others. Bah humbug to those who would say bah humbug to this season.
I'm for that.
Yes.
I'm absolutely for that.
So mote it be.
So mote it be. Happy Yule, everybody. Happy Christmas. New Year's coming. It is. We are right at the solstice. Minutes away, right? Minutes away.
Oh, wow.
From the night, shortest day of the year. Is anybody doing any specific, since we are a witchy group and we have a couple minutes, is anybody doing a specific anything with their family or ritual that they do for the winter solstice?
Yeah, we're go ahead. No,
I just was going to say this isn't really a ritual per se, but there is one thing that is part of my holiday decor that I always try to have out by the solstice, and that's La Befana's broomstick, which is, I have got an array of brooms that are out during October and Halloween, but there's one that is specifically for La Befana, and so that goes by the fireplace on the solstice. So
beautiful. Thank you.
We're
Heather?
doing our light family. We do a family light ritual celebration at the Sabbats that I've been doing with the children and everyone this year. So ours is kind of, we're trying to wedge it in between moving and everybody going here and there and everywhere now that everyone's older. So we will be doing that, and a special tarot reading for the new year as well. I'm going to be sharing with them. So that's going to be a fun one where everyone participates and laughs and gets ready for 2024.
That is beautiful. Year of the Dragon next year, making me very happy. Wood Dragon coming in. Yeah, I'm actually I'm tonight in a few hours, I will be starting my solstice with the vampires, the Vampire Witch solstice at Bordner's, the oldest bar in Hollywood. You got to celebrate where you celebrate. Yeah. Does anybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about? I don't have anything until Hanover Tavern Paracon in Virginia, January 18, 19, 20. It's a fundraiser. It's really great. Come on down if anybody wants to. Lots of cool people there. Anybody else?
Yes, Robert Hicks asks us what next week's Coven will be. Does anyone know?
I am going to tell you in 1 second.
Thank you, Robert Hicks.
It's the Nutcracker as designed, but no.
That laugh, Richard-Lael.
I know. I'm evil.
While that's being looked up, I have one thing that's coming up that I want to throw out real quick that's going to irritate Richard-Lael even more, and that's that I will be appearing as Willy Wonka at a chocolate expo in Cincinnati at the end of January. And since I don't know if I'm going to be back on the show before then, I thought I'd throw it out there that if anyone's planning on going to the Chocolate Expo, I will be there, dressed as the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka.
Because that is the best Willy Wonka.
I hate it.
Yes.
Humbug. Bah humbug.
I have the movie, and it is definitely one appropriate for, because we're getting close to someone's birthday, and someone chose the movie for next week, and it is The Omen.
Oh,
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
I love The Omen. It's such a great one. And the soundtrack is amazing. anyway, we can talk about that next week.
That's next week.
We
Because
will
also
talk
it's
about
my,
it next week.
this is my birthday
I-
next week, and we are going to be doing a live New Year's Eve celebration. So you want to come and find me, and we'll have some guests and maybe some people here. I don't know. We haven't really asked, but we have some people here who may be able to show up on that night, and I would celebrate that.
My birthday is Saturday.
Chad's birthday.
Capricorns.
Dad.
Woo!
Jason's birthday is coming up. Jason's is January 4th.
4th, yeah.
Wow. Parties for
Hail the
everybody.
goats.
That is. I'm sorry. I'm still stuck at anything called a chocolate expo. I want to
Really?
chocolate expo. That sounds better than any
does.
Paracon.
Seems fair.
Okay. All right. It is time. But it's not a day to cackle, right? It's the day to ho, ho, ho. Oh, we are getting ourselves with trouble. But here we go. 1, 2, 3.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.